This Friday marks the 20th anniversary of the assassination of San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk. The two, as you'll recall, were gunned down inside City Hall by former Supervisor Dan White. Today, family and friends gather to honor their memory. Moscone is known for opening the city government, making it possible for ethnic groups and gays and lesbians to play a role. Harvey Milk, in fact, was San Francisco's first openly gay supervisor.
Yes, San Francisco is very special, and it's very special because the people of San Francisco, at whatever generation and in whatever decade, makes it that way. George and Harvey did it for us.
Now, Joan Baez sang at today's memorial just as she did 20 years ago when 50,000 people gathered for a candlelight vigil.
And ABC 7's Don Sanchez was a reporter with us back then when this happened. And Don, you actually saw Harvey Milk just before he died.
About 30 minutes before. My parents had been visiting for the weekend. They were going to say goodbye and pulling up at the station. He was walking by our television station on his way back to City Hall. 35 minutes later, he was dead. It's amazing and eerie and incomprehensible, I think, too. More evil raining down on the city just 9 days after we were shocked by the massacre in Jonestown. Gunfire at City Hall destroyed whatever was left of the city's innocence. And I can still remember Dianne Feinstein's chilling words.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Numbing words. And the suspect was former Supervisor Dan White, a cold-blooded killer who first shot the mayor, then killed Harvey Milk. White, carrying his old Smith & Wesson revolver, had sneaked into City Hall through a basement window, avoiding security. Security that had just been stepped up after the Jonestown massacre. White eventually surrendered at a police station where he had once served as an officer. But why? Why were Moscone and Milk shot by a man who was supposed to make the law, not break it? We have to go back to the climate 20 years ago. There had been violent protests and unrest. San Francisco, even with a reputation as a city where anything goes, was rampant with polarizing politics. Neighborhoods filled with conservative old-world roots. District elections brought a metamorphosis at City Hall. Ultra-liberal State Senator George Moscone was elected mayor. And Harvey Milk from the Castro became the city's first openly gay supervisor. Dan White, a former cop and firefighter, a sort of all-American boy, came from the Excelsior, a great white hope among old-timers. He was sorely out of place with more progressive supervisors. His approach was often innocently simplistic.
There is what I consider in San Francisco a state of emergency regarding the criminal element and crime.
Supervisors earned $9,600 a year in 1978. It was creating a financial crisis for White. He and his wife were running a fast food place at Pier 39. Just 17 days after he won the supervisor's job, White quit. He told ABC 7's AM San Francisco host Maury Povich he simply didn't have time to serve his 8th District constituents.
When I have to leave them, to go down to earn money, to supplement the income that I'm not getting so my family can be taken care of, then the job is not being done on either front.
Just as suddenly as he quit, White decided he wanted his job back. Mayor Moscone said maybe, but...
There are many interested candidates, and Dan White, of course, is one of the high-ranking candidates.
But Moscone had already decided on another choice. On Monday, November 27th, Assemblyman Willie Brown, visiting the mayor, left Moscone's office just 45 seconds before White walked in. The ex-supervisor was pleading for his old job. The mayor said he was giving it to someone else. And then...
He's all the time knowing he's going to go out and lie to the press and tell them, that I wasn't a good supervisor and that people didn't want me. And then that was it. And I just shot him.
In the arm and chest. Then he stood over the mayor and fired twice into his head. White went to his old office, reloaded, and killed Milk. 3 shots to the front of his body, then 2 blasts execution style to the back of his head. Pandemonium and chaos enveloped City Hall.
Where are you? I'm in the mayor's office. Can I get an ambulance code 3, room 200?
Disbelief when Board of Supervisors President Feinstein announced the murders, and police were looking for a man who was once one of their own.
Suspect named Dan White, considered armed and dangerous.
White turned himself into former colleagues at Northern Station and confessed. People from White's neighborhood were simply perplexed.
He and his wife are lovely people.
He just must have went berserk.
Later, White said he also had wanted to kill then Supervisor Carol Ruth Silver and Assemblyman Willie Brown. The man who is now the city's mayor was on our newscast with Van Amberg that night, charging White planned the murders.
Dan White was an ex-policeman and an ex-fireman, having those kind of skills, clearly. And in this business, as a politician, we all know that there's a great risk. It's really open season on politicians, and it was planned. It would have to be.
San Francisco was a city filled with deep sorrow. People were emotionally damaged first by Jonestown and now by this. That night, thousands mourned at a candlelight march from the Castro to the Civic Center. 2 days later, thousands more gathered in front of City Hall for a memorial service. Joan Baez sang Amazing Grace. State funerals would follow. We were being asked,
when this information is downloaded and analyzed.
Jonestown, I thought we'd had enough, and now we got some more. You know, from one nightmare to another nightmare. I'm sick of my stomach. I'm tired of crying.
Tired of crying, such an emotional weight, but the nightmare was not over. The trial was yet to come, and the verdict spawned what we called the White Night Riot. And we'll look at that and the legacy left. That is the 27th, right? The 27th, and that is the 20th anniversary.
It is chilling to look back at those pictures.
Yeah.